There are many challenges we must meet to deliver for the American people, and each will have my full effort and attention. I still have enough gas in my tank to thoroughly disappoint my critics, and I intend to do so with all the enthusiasm with which they've become accustomed. So to my colleagues, thank you for entrusting me with our success. It's been an honor to work with each of you. There'll be plenty of time to express my gratitude in greater detail as I sprint towards the finish line, which is now in sight. I yield the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Just a catching strays over here.
You're in for a hell of a show.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Welcome back to the Ruthless Variety program. It has been an eventful week here in Washington, D.C. Foremost amongst that announcement that you just heard from the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, of whom I am an unabashed and unapologetic fan of, and I realize that is impolitic in many circles today, and frankly, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't either.
The guy is incredible, and he has delivered more conservative victories than anybody who claims to be one over the last however many years that he's been doing this. And, look, it's an emotional day from that standpoint. I think the good news from this perspective is that he's self-aware and understands that when you're 82 and you're in a job like that it's time, as he said, for a new generation of leadership, something our current occupant of the White House seems not to understand. And we'll be talking more about that, but I've got a lot of observations. This has been a big week personally for some of us who've played some small role in what he's done over the years and are immensely proud of it. The political environment in and of itself doesn't reward a lot of that these days, and that's okay. I think history probably does better than modern times and almost anybody who's worth a shit. At least that's what it's been up to this point in American history. Mm-hmm. So I'm proud of it, and I'm really proud of him today for doing that. I think that takes a lot of courage to do in the midst of all these sort of swirling seas of Republican primaries and funding fights and all these kinds of things, to be self-aware and introspective enough to know that what you're leaving behind here matters, and giving people an opportunity to take up what he has sort of built over the last 30 years. Fellas?
I didn't work for McConnell in the same capacity that you did or Ashbrook did. I was more of a convert to that world.
Well, you worked against us is what you did.
I did a lot.
Yeah.
With gusto.
With gusto.
With gusto.
With great gusto.
I might
Too much gusto.
That's how we met.
There's a lot of gusto. But if I could just tell one quick story of McConnell, this is one of my favorite stories to tell about him. And it really made me understand, how much he had not just an attention to detail, but an understanding of how important what he was doing was. And I've told you the story before, but in the 2020 election, periodically I'd be sending him, copy for approval, ads for approval, text messages for approval, all of this sort of stuff, because he was up in cycle. And obviously the thing he was most proud of at the time was the historic confirmation of judges, right? 3 on the Supreme Court and all the other judges. And very rarely would he not be able to just respond to me on a text message or an email or whatever. And one night he called me, and it was almost 10 p.m. And, I'd send him a bunch of copy on judges, historic confirmations, the numbers, all that sort of stuff, because, it matters a lot to the conservative movement. It's going to matter for the next generation, by the way. It's one of the most important accomplishments of Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
But he called me, and I remember him saying, "Do the people understand? It's not just judges, Michael. I need you to it's not just judges. There's circuit court judges. Historic numbers of circuit court judges we've confirmed." And I was like,
Yeah.
which he understands, right? Because, like, obviously, like, that's going to matter a lot,
Yeah.
you know, for the future of our country. And I had to break his heart a little bit, and it was the hardest thing I had to do
You're
on
like,
the
"They
phone.
don't."
I was like, they don't. We can explain that, sir. But the overall number, let's stick with that. People are really proud of it. Let's go with that. And I guess in that moment, what I really understood about him is this is a guy who had an incredible appreciation, not just for what he was doing, but the attention to detail it requires to be a winner.
Yeah.
You know, and even a guy who had accomplished so much thought it necessary to pick up the phone and be like, the circuit court judges are also really important. And it's like, if you want to be successful in this line of work, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Like that's what it takes. It's that attention.
Bumper stickers don't get shit done.
Right.
And that's the thing that he's already, I mean, look, he's a master campaigner. He's done that his entire career. But you know, part of his plan and part of the whole success of the judiciary movement and the changing of the courts, both with the Supreme Court, the appellate circuit, federal judges, was all part of a multi-decade plan.
Yeah.
That if you ever gave him a sliver of an opportunity, he was going to take it. And prioritizing what mattered most, as you just outlined,
Right.
Is an important distinction from, you know, folks who are just like, yeah, judges, that's great. There's a segment that cares about that. It's not the segment that cares about that ever mattered to him. It's the accomplishment of what could happen if you actually changed a federal judiciary, fundamentally remade a Supreme Court. You could have a liberty and freedom agenda that they can't touch. He always used to tell me, like, you know, I mean, every time there's a new majority, you're going to change tax rates. They believe in higher taxes. We believe in lower taxes. Every time I get the opportunity to lower taxes, I'm going to do it. Every time they get a chance to increase taxes, they're going to do it. It's cyclical. It's all stuff that's out of our control. It's political environment and everything else. The one thing they can't change is this. If we fundamentally remake the courts in a way that they can't overcome, they're going to spend a generation wringing their hands trying to figure out how to undo it. And that's what's happened. That's what's happened. You don't, I mean, look, he doesn't run a lot of victory laps, right? It's not a guy who pats himself on his back and tells you what a great job he's doing. So consequently, he doesn't get a lot of accolades as a result of it. You know, there are a lot of people who took credit for a whole bunch of things that have happened over the last few years.
Because as soon as he gets a win, he's like, where else are we losing? I'm going right to work on that.
Yeah, well, he's already working on it, right? By the time you got it close to the finish line, he's already on to the next.
Right.
It's truly a remarkably historical figure. I'm proud to have played some small part in what he's been able to accomplish. Now, he's going to be around for a while. The news out of today was that this will be his last term as Republican leader. That ends in November. They'll have leadership elections at that point, and far be it from us to try to speculate what happens in that situation. We'll get into that another time. But he also said he's going to serve out the remainder of his term, which is 26. So that's not an immediate vacancy there either. He'll be around for a while, and I think a totally unmoored Mitch McConnell is something most people would be surprised to see. And they may be very surprised to see.
I think it's going to be so good.
The caricature that has been painted of Mitch McConnell and what it is that he believes in, having the burden of trying to communicate everyone's views versus his own. You may be surprised to find out he's got some views that are not exactly that of a cuck, shall we say.
This man is unconflicted about what he believes and what he says, and I have a ton of stories, but I would like to tell you just one that I know that Smug especially will get a kick out of. So this is years ago. I was kind of new as a press secretary for him at the time, And I walked into his office with a list of talking points right before we had some media interviews. And I was like, sir, this is the issue. This is what we should be thinking about. This is a way to frame it with these reporters. And he was just sat there and looked at it. He looked at it and he looked at me. And he just sat there and was like, And I was like, yeah, but sir, he was like, John, we're not pandering to these people. I am not going to pander to these people. And of course, Smug would, assume that I'm going to be like, whatever the press wants, you got to help me. You got to give it.
Typically.
But he was
Give it to his journo buddies.
Yeah.
He just, but I mean, that's who he is.
Yeah.
He refuses to be something different than he is.
Yeah.
It's just somebody when a negative story is written about him, when a critic writes a cartoon about him, he prints it off and he hangs it on the wall of his office. He doesn't care. He wears it like it's a medal.
Yeah, he always said he's prouder of his enemies than he is of his friends.
And because
Which I think is such a great phrase.
If you're a Republican in this society, if you're a conservative in this society, the media vilifies you. They criticize you. And it didn't just start like this year with Trump. It's been going on since the 80s, since he's been around.
Yeah.
And I just think that like the more Republicans that adopt his approach to criticism from the mainstream press, the better off we're going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think that's right. And ultimately, you're going to see quite a bit of him, I think, over the next few months. He's absolutely dedicated to try to get a Senate majority, which he views as in concert with a presidential election that we need to win. And ultimately, that's the eyes on the prize type stuff that you want people to focus on. Where it all goes from here, I don't know. I could tell you 1,000,001 McConnell stories. We'll save that for another day. But anyway, hats off to a job well done. Here's to running through the tape, and hopefully we can all play a role in that.
With cyber attacks on the rise, protecting your data security is more important than ever. So why is Congress considering a bill that puts your credit card data at greater risk of being hacked and exposed to foreign networks? The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill shifts billions in consumer spending to less secure payment networks, all so that corporate megastores can make bigger profits. Don't let Durbin-Marshall steal your data. Visit electronicpaymentscoalition.org and tell your senators to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill.
For the rest of the show, we're going to have a lot of fun today.
Yes.
It's a hell of an episode.
We're going to have a lot of fun today. We've got a bunch of stuff happening here. Look, it was an election result this week. Not a lot of people paid attention to it because it's sort of a fait accompli, but, it's not an insignificant state. State of Michigan on Tuesday. A big showdown on the Republican side with Nikki Haley and Donald Trump, thought to be sort of the next step in this post-South Carolina 60-40 world. Well, it didn't end up that way, fellas. It didn't end up that way. It was a 68, 26.5 drubbing in Michigan. That sort of gives you an indication of where things are headed, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we were texting on Tuesday night, and I was looking at some of those early returns out of Oakland County, and this is like, the suburban areas outside of Detroit in which Donald Trump has typically, in other places, like not fared. I mean, he's won them, but not fared as well as he has in other parts of the state. You're talking about places like Rochester Hills, Bloomfield, Birmingham, that whole area, and he was at like 65 or 66 or something, and in those early returns, it was very clear his overwhelming strength in the state.
I mean, like, just there was no deficits.
There was no deficits, even in like Ann Arbor, like college town.
Right.
Yeah, Nikki Haley did pretty well there, but I think it was still like a 55-45 proposition. And so, we didn't see what we saw in South Carolina, in which some of those, suburban and more urban areas, she really, really overperformed. And so, that's how you got to the sort of result that we saw.
The other thing that caught my attention... Oh, go ahead, Smug.
Well, I was just saying, when I was looking at the maps of the results, and my first thought was also...
Why don't we let's put up graphic one just while he's talking about it.
My first thought was to compare that to South Carolina. And I think a lot of, like, the numbers that you saw in South Carolina is because these are people who are, they voted for Nikki Haley a bunch of times, and it's her home state. And the fact that Trump did so well and Nikki Haley doesn't have home court advantage here in Michigan, my takeaway is the number one issue, I think, this election cycle is the border. I think it's affecting folks in the suburbs. They're seeing the chaos. The news cycle this entire week has been multiple instances of Americans being murdered by illegal aliens. It's dominated the news.
Yeah.
Whether it's in Georgia. There's a case in D.C. of a 2-year-old who's assaulted.
Oh, horrific.
Just absolutely
Every
terrible.
parent's worst nightmare.
So, Democrats said that it's trying to be like buzzwords or a little bumper sticker saying of that, like every state's now a border state. Every state's now a border state. They're seeing it. And I think that as terrible a job as Joe Biden has done, Donald Trump's whole identity when he ran in 2016 was build the wall. I'm going to be strong on the border. We saw under his presidency, those numbers were a fraction of what they are today.
Yeah.
And you'd see these interviews being done at the border, and migrants, future illegal aliens, would basically be saying, well, the border shut down. It's a no-go. Now, especially after that 2020, Democrat primary where they all raised their hands and said we would give free everything to illegal aliens, the message went out that, okay, under Joe Biden, it's open season.
Yeah.
So I think voters in the suburbs across the state, whether they're populist, whether they're not, this issue of the absolute chaos at the border and the ramifications and the horrors are being visited across Americans coast to coast. In blue states, in New York, now the majority of New York voters see the border as being a chaotic situation foremost of their mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and the one thing that I would say to piggyback on that with the Michigan results, Nick, can we put that graphic back up? One of the things Democrats like to say about Trump's early state results is that Trump is the incumbent, and it should be alarm bells that he's only getting 70% against someone who's running against him. Okay, well, if Trump is the incumbent, let's look at the vote total. Donald Trump received 756,000 votes from the state of Michigan. Let's look at another incumbent and his vote total.
Graphic, too.
We don't have do we have this graphic?
Yeah, graphic, too.
We do. Okay. The other incumbent, Joe Biden, 617,000 votes. So if this is two incumbents running against each other, it is Mayday territory for Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is a big deal. And so national press has made a lot of this conversation, because of Democratic operatives who've been incredibly concerned about the Biden administration's handling of the war in Israel over Gaza with Palestinians and Hamas and whatnot, which blows my mind that this is a constituency, but we've talked about that. But they thought that this was sort of the bellwether, in particular because of Dearborn, Michigan, which has a disproportionately large number of Palestinian residents there. And the protest vote there was supposedly kind of a high water mark around the country in terms of people who were most anxious on the Democratic side about his handling of Israel. Okay. I think there's two ways to look at this, right? The first way, AP has a story about how the uncommitted votes demanded attention. President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump won the Michigan primaries Tuesday, further solidifying an all but certain rematch between the two men. Yet early results from the state were highlighting some of the biggest political vulnerabilities in this general election. As we just stated, I didn't see those vulnerabilities on the Trump side one bit. It feels like a story that you wrote the night before the election. On the Democratic side, it says a vigorous, uncommitted campaign organized by activists disillusioned with Biden's handling of the war on Gaza was making headway. It had already far surpassed the 10,000 vote margin by which Trump won in Michigan in 2016, a goal set by organizers of the protest. All right, so you can see in this graphic, and for our audio-only listeners, Biden has 81.1%. The uncommitted vote, which was the vote that was urged on by the Hamas component of the Democratic Party, landed at 13.3. Now, I think that is an alarmingly high number.
It's over 100,000 votes.
Over 100. They were shooting for 10,000. They got 100,000.
I think that is an alarmingly high number. All that being said, I think the total turnout here is more alarming to Joe Biden, as you just suggested, in far underperforming where Donald Trump was from a raw vote total when you're running a campaign to try to prove that these people can't overwhelm the current sitting incumbent president of the United States. Like, this is what Democrats will say is, oh, it was an uncontested race, basically, and we just kind of like sit on the sidelines and don't do anything. No. They put their back into trying to put out, to turn out Trump or Biden voters because they knew that this could potentially be a huge embarrassment and could reflect Democratic policy as a result of it. So I'd be more concerned about the fact that you only got 600 and some odd thousand Democrats to vote for Joe Biden than I would be about the 13.3. I'll be honest, like 13.3 in an election with 782,000 people turning out when you have a 2.4 million, I think, is the number of Democrats that are registered or something similar to that. I'd be much more concerned about the gap between your registered Democrats and your turnout than I would be about the constituency that they've all bent over backwards trying to accommodate and putting out all kinds of ceasefire shit to try to pretend as though like an obvious harm that's being done to the world should somehow be mitigated to try to placate these people.
Nikki Haley is running a campaign. She has cable ads up. She has a team on the ground in the state. Uncommitted doesn't have any of those things.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, Nikki Haley, say what you will about Nikki Haley. We now know beyond a shadow of a doubt she's run the best campaign in 2024. She just has. She wouldn't be there without it. Their campaign, their strategy, their way of executing it has gotten to them to the point where they're actually mano a mano with Donald Trump amongst a whole bunch of people who are no longer in the race who had a whale of a better chance than she did when they got in.
So I agree with you. The turnout thing, if I'm a Democrat, does bother me. But I just want to go back to the uncommitted thing real quickly because, like, look, there's a difference between the Republican primary where you maybe prefer Nikki Haley and you might consolidate at the end, but showing up using your free time to vote uncommitted in a race that is, for all intents and purposes, decided speaks to a level of hatred of Joe Biden that I don't think Democrats
it's 100,000. There's 100,000 of them.
Right. And I guess what I want to say is like that uncommitted problem isn't a Dearborn. Dearborn, for those who don't know, Dearborn is that part outside of Detroit that has a very, very large Arab population. And Wayne County, which is part of Detroit and where Dearborn is, 17% were uncommitted. But this is a problem outside of Dearborn. Oakland County, Wayne County, where Dearborn is, 17% uncommitted. Oakland County, those suburbs, those places where, you know, Donald Trump's going to have a lot of problems, but Joe Biden's going to get those, you know, moderate Republic, 13%. Macomb County, 13%. Kent, 14%. I mean, it's a problem all over the state. It's a systemic problem of his age and his ability to do the job.
Yeah, I mean,
frankly.
I agree. And I think that's right. Obviously, there was a campaign underway on the uncommitted side by the pro-Hamas constituency.
But it's not. They're not running broadcast and news adjacencies in the Detroit market.
They're not. But again, like before everybody gets like, you know, jerking off over that. The fact of the matter is this happened to Obama everywhere. This is the problem that you have when you try to suppress a Democratic election, as Democrats have done in this primary election, is that the only way to express frustration is to vote uncommitted. And that happened to Obama in a big way in 2012. I mean, remember there's some states it was 45%.
Okay, so in Kentucky, like you're saying here, in Kentucky, I think it was like 41, 45%. But by raw votes, it was less than the uncommitted in Michigan.
Sure, I mean, that's a big
night.
number.
It's a big huge number.
It's a big number. But I think...
I'm just saying the people in Oakland County who are like live in Rochester are not fans of the like Hamas.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
No, I got it. No, look. It makes sense. I'm just saying, if I look at this from a Biden campaign perspective, what I'm concerned about is intensity.
Yeah, overall enthusiasm. I don't disagree.
And I'm extremely concerned. You're gonna get some of these niche constituencies that you have a problem with, no matter what, Republican, Democrat, whatever. The larger issue that they have here is the intensity behind Biden is non-existent. It's non-existent.
It's their worst nightmare because they are putting all their marbles on intensity being given to them by Donald Trump being on the ballot for us.
Can I say this reminds me of something? The Hillary problem.
Yeah.
In
Doesn't it feel like
2016,
that?
She didn't have the intensity, you know.
It does
they
feel
were
like
counting
that.
on they thought that campaign was like, if we just say Trump, Trump, Trump enough,
Yeah.
it'll carry us all the way. Listen, I mean, folks have now seen what 4 years of Biden gets you, and the country's not better for it.
Republican enthusiasm is real as a result. Like South Carolina was huge too.
Massive number.
I mean, incredible. Nikki never got that many votes in any of her statewide primaries. Trump didn't get as many votes as Nikki when he ran in South Carolina in 2016, and he nearly doubled her total.
Yeah.
So it's like Republicans are coming for the ballot box.
Yep.
And Democrats, maybe they'll show up, maybe they don't, but I right now it seems like we're on the march.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And to that point, Biden is behind Trump in every swing state but one. According to Real Clear Politics, RCP co-founder and president Tom Bevan talked about a new poll in Wisconsin from the Hill Emerson showing Trump up with a 3-point lead in Wisconsin in a head-to-head matchup. The site of by the way, a competitive Senate race as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the mustache on Eric Hovde.
I
It's
mean,
the best
just
mustache in the game.
It
really
is. That is a duster.
It
fellas.
really is.
Like you're not going to ignore a mustache like that.
No.
Yeah.
That mustache deserves votes.
No, and it will get votes.
It will get votes. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even care what his platform is. I take a look at that thing and I'm like, I'm in. Where do I sign up? Do I max out or volunteer? I don't know. That's my decision. But I'm in for one
Yeah.
for sure. But if you look at the other states that we're talking about, Pennsylvania, that's the only one in this entire conversation where Trump is trailing Biden, and it's by less than 1 point.
Also, there's a very interesting little wrinkle in this poll that Tom Bevan also mentioned, is that, yes, Trump is ahead of Biden in every swing state except for Pennsylvania. But, and this is to me surprising, because this is something that we've discussed of, are third-party candidates going to help Trump more, hurt Trump more? Trump's lead increases when there's third-party candidates, which is very fascinating, because earlier we saw polling that suggested that RFK is pulling votes from Trump. Now it's looking like third-party candidates are pulling votes from Biden.
Well, it's part of what a primary does, and it like this has been an education for me too, because I think at the outset of party politics, which I was involved in very early in my career, your goal is to always try to clear as many primaries as you possibly can and keep it open. And I think that still makes a lot of sense for like Senate races and congressional races and things like that. What happens at the top of the ticket is when you don't have any contest whatsoever, there is an absence of enthusiasm. Like people don't really dig in for their guy. And I think that is happening to Joe Biden. I think it's going to happen no matter what because of the obvious absent nature of his overall demeanor, shall we say. But the fact that they're just basically blocking and tackling any sort of contest at all has never consolidated anything.
Right.
I mean, he's just mailing it in.
These numbers. So in Arizona, this is Trump-Biden. Trump's up 4.7%. Georgia, Trump's up 6.8%. Nevada, Trump's up 8.4%. North Carolina, Trump's up 6%. Wisconsin, Trump's up 1.2%. Michigan, Trump's up 4%. These are serious numbers.
I mean,
these are numbers
consistent.
that are saying that Joe Biden has a problem.
It's so consistent. It's across the board. Now, we've always warned on this program that there is underappreciation for the non-consolidated Democratic vote here, meaning young people, people of color, typical Democratic constituencies that are now either like voting uncommitted or things like that. But they're certainly never going to the Republican column. And right now they find themselves sort of somewhere in between. If you're Biden, you worry that those people don't vote. Because if they don't vote, it's going to look a lot like these polls. What history has shown us is that they ultimately do. And they've used Donald Trump as a terrific boogeyman to get these people to vote, right? It's the one thing that actually consolidates a Democratic base. So I don't think anybody's out of the woods yet. But if you had an election today, Donald Trump's the next president of the United States.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Well, I mean, the one caveat to that is we saw in 2020, we saw in 2022, the Democrats are extremely good at getting low propensity voters to turn out in mail and early voting, the sort of places where Republicans used to perform really, really, really well.
Yeah.
You know, and like, look, we have to have that operation in this election. All these polls show Donald Trump winning, but they also put this election in the mid 40s.
Yeah.
And
well, don't worry. I've been reliably told that TPUSA has that all under control. You don't have to worry about it. It's all happening, right?
I mean, it's a real concern because like their ability to get people to turn out in those ways is worth a couple of points if we don't do the same.
Look, since President Trump came on the scene, there have been groups that have stood up all over this country claiming credit for what he delivered. The reality is that if he wins this election, it's because of one person. It's him. It has nothing to do with TPUSA or anybody who's raising money and drafting off of President Trump's name. He is the reason. And
well, it reminds me of what
different.
Duncan always used to say about the Pod Bros. About it was like 4 white guys taking credit for the first black president.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Trump is a unique person in American history, a unique figure in American politics. He just is. Nobody can argue that. And if he wins again, it's because of him.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. But there are some infrastructure things that we've seen over and over again have become problematic.
Well, his campaign this time around is
I think that's right. But
level.
look, I heard him the other night saying like vote by mail is fraud. And I know that there's an effort to try to make sure that we get to a point where that is not going to be the message that we deliver to our voters. But there's a lot of work to do.
I just hope somebody close to Donald Trump would show him how he won Arizona in 2016.
Right.
And it was on the back of a huge operation for permanent early voters, male voters in Arizona. And I
male,
say,
M-A-I-L.
I just
not M-A-L-E.
Right.
Although that helped too.
And I hate, I just hate having to be a wet blanket, but that's reality.
No,
and I want somebody.
is huge. It's very important.
What you're saying is that he won Arizona.
Yeah.
You're saying that Donald Trump won Arizona before Election Day in 2016.
Yes.
That's the thing is voting by mail. You bank those.
People don't realize that.
They don't.
It could snow. It could rain. Whatever.
I mean, we just saw this in New York. In this special election.
It just happened.
It literally just happened. How many times does it have to happen before we change our behavior?
It just happened, you know? And the thing is that you got to make a concerted effort to change voting behavior in order to compete with that because you don't know what the weather brings. You don't know what events bring. Somebody's mom dies. Somebody's kid gets sick. There's a million reasons why you can't make it to the polls when you have full intent on going to the polls. And in states where they have verified vote by mail programs, states like Arizona that have been doing it for generations, you got to participate in it. Now, I completely understand the objections that Donald Trump and everybody else has about a whole bunch of fly-by-night procedures that were thrown in at the last minute under COVID rules in 2020.
We were arguing against those at the time.
Yeah, and I think for those of us who are engaged in elections, what we did very early on is get involved with secretaries of state and attorneys general to make sure that you fully knew what the rules were, that they were enforceable, and that you could actually play within the confines of whatever new rules were adapted. Now, that didn't happen in 2020. I'm fully of the belief, for all the reasons that you outlined, that this campaign is going to do that. The question is whether you can change enough of the mentality to do it. And I think if they do that, this looks good. Like everything looks good right now.
Yeah, if it's coming from the Trump campaign, voters will say, "Oh, okay, this is coming from them. I know it's legit." If it's coming from some outside group who's like trying to claim credit, they're like, "Oh no, we're actually Trump, even though we're just raising money off of Trump's name and drafting off of him so we can build another house." Like, people don't believe that. What they believe is what Trump tells them, not what a grifter tells them.
All right, so we got a whole big show in front of you. We got King of the Hill that returns. I'm judge, so I'm happy to rule with an iron fist on that. We've got a little thing on minimum wage that Smug wants to get into because he hates the poorers.
No, I hate Gavin Newsom. I hate Gavin Newsom.
I'm kidding. I'm with you on this one. And then there's a beautiful story about a Willy Wonka experience that we need to get into. All of that and a whole bunch more after this break. All right, fellas, it's King of the Hill time.
I'm bailiff.
Yeah, and I'm going to be a very judicious judge here.
Okay, I forgot about this.
I will support you.
You will?
Yeah.
I appreciate
I
that.
rule with an iron fist.
No, I like it. Typically, when you're a bailiff, you do it under the confines of the law, but very strict. And you make people participate, which I like. Who do we got here?
I'm the challenger, and I'm bringing Joe Walsh.
Joe Walsh.
Smoking Joe Walsh.
Wow.
I have not heard from him in a while.
I mean, he dropped some nukes, and I'm ready to win.
I
calling
love
it.
that.
I'm Babe Ruth pointing. This is a W.
I mean, he's going to have some good takes because, as I recall, John Ashbrook has Sherry My Sherry.
Yep.
He does. The champion and a bit of a cheat code on the variety program. She has put a lot of strings together, albeit, like if those scholars of this program, that I'm a judge is least susceptible
Yeah.
to Sherry's arguments, which I find over the top at times. But with all that being said, I think it's time to go to ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. It's time for King of the Hill. In the blue corner, fighting under the shadow of his former political career, Smoking Joe Walsh. And now, in the red corner, fighting out of her own Twitter account, and current champion of the world, Commie Cherry Jacobus.
I feel like he held it at an extra length just because it's his player.
Yeah.
Don't you feel like that? It's sort of uncouth to have a ring announcer that also has skin in the game.
No, but I respect it because, like, being able to play in the game after delivering a performance like that, he should almost get a bonus point.
He should. And he has to go first, too, so he's got to switch gears fast.
Yeah. Catch your breath.
All right, bailiff. Let's get this show on the road.
Okay.
So as challenger, I'm ready to roll. Can we get
Hold on.
Hold
champion goes first. Champion goes first. Go
Gee
ahead.
whiz.
Well, I'm ready to go.
Good thing you have an honest court here.
Yeah, it's obvious. The integrity.
Okay, fellas, I have the first tweet for you. We're all familiar. This is Nikki. We're going to be calling up exhibit number 1. We're all familiar with a very important poet.
Are we going to get to this, man?
Who wrote
Like, come on.
the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Okay,
All
T.S. Eliot.
All familiar.
Cherry Jacobus made her run at a version of T.S. Eliot.
Okay.
Nikki, would you mind putting exhibit number 1? Electricity is down in parts of my town, so I'm sitting in the dark with candles drinking wine. With half-charged phone battery, no TV, Wi-Fi, can't cook. Not the Sunday evening I planned. I see one street light, but the rest are out. That's Cherry Jacobus.
It's a bit of a rerun. It's a cat lady thing. We've seen it before.
I always say, like, in ordinary times, I would look at that. Like, if I just read it, I would be like, I don't care for it all. The preface really worked it up.
It's good salesmanship.
It was great salesmanship. Okay.
So I'm going to fight fire with fire, and I especially picked this one for Judge Holmes. I think it's something he will enjoy. Can we please get Exhibit 17, Nick? This is so Mediaite says upcoming book reveals Biden told White House
can't
staffers
read the whole
secret
thing.
to his marriage. He said his secret to good marriage is sex with Jill. Good sex with Jill. And Joe Walsh says, this is the Joe Biden I want to hear more about and more from. Probably the only person in America who had that reaction.
Didn't he have problems in that regard?
I mean, probably. And that strikes me as a problem.
Didn't he?
All right, I'm just going to say it. You hear the man talk. He clearly is not getting enough blood flow to his brain. There is no possible way it's getting there to that part of his body.
There's medication, though.
There is medication, but somebody, I think of his advanced age, there's also risks in that sort of thing. I think this is totally fake. Guy's been a liar his entire career in politics. The idea this guy is having sex every night with Dr. Jill Biden is just absurd. It's just absurd.
I don't know. I went to a pre-Cana when I was getting married to my wife, and like this was new to me because I didn't grow up Catholic. And part of this was sex education component.
For real?
No, I swear to God. And I thought I was being punked. I walked in and like we all sit down. There's got to be like 50 people in this room, and these like two old people, like in their 70s, they roll up and they start talking about how they bang every night. And it was like in actual graphic detail.
Okay.
And I literally. I was looking around the room and looking at my wife like, where are the cameras?
Yeah.
Like someone's going to pop out and be like, you guys,
Yeah.
how hilarious is this? Never happened. They were dead serious. So, I don't know.
Joe Biden can't walk up the stairs to Air Force One. You're telling me he's having sex every night with Jill Biden.
All I know is in the context of this game, it appears as though Smoke and Joe Walsh would like to hear more about his sex with Jill Biden. And for that reason, he is the winner of
Wow.
Round 2, Challenger.
You know, I think I'm going to just go for a second round knockout here. Can I please get Exhibit 15, Nick? This is from the Department of Things That Actually Happened. Joe Walsh says, progress, one voter at a time. A hardcore MAGA dude, former supporter of mine. A guy who 5 years ago, when I turned on Trump, sent me a message that said, fuck you. I hope you rot in hell. This morning left me another message telling me he won't vote for Trump in this week's Michigan primary. Trump is a cancer, he said. He doesn't know what he'll do in November if it's Biden versus Trump, but he just wanted me to know that he's voting for Haley this week. Progress. I absolutely believe that definitely happened. And then everyone in the grocery store stood up and clapped.
A former supporter of his
Yeah.
In Michigan.
He was a congressman from Illinois.
Yeah, former supporter of his,
Okay.
you know, in a separate state.
Yeah.
Hardcore MAGA dude.
No, it all makes perfect sense.
And you remember 5 years ago, this guy sent him a message. He was like, oh, yeah, this guy.
He's been keeping up on Joe Walsh.
Keeping up on him.
Yeah.
Johnny, what do we got from Sherry?
So, Nikki, we're going to be calling up exhibit number 7, and this is a little bit more consistent with what Smug put up for our president and his wife's marital routine. Cherry Jacobus, exhibit number 7. She's commenting on a tweet from Molly Jong Fast, Molly Jong Fast is losing her mind about a lib. Cherry says, soon it will be against the law for a woman to refuse sex with her husband on demand. They will codify, quote, no means yes, close quote, period, outside of close quote.
I don't need to hear anymore. You win round 2. That is the idea of legalized rape in this country because she's not getting her way in the Democratic ballot box is really quite something.
They want Handmaid's Tale so badly.
But legalized rape, I think, is something that we haven't quite broached on the program before.
No,
that's a new one, and she's. I thought broached every piece of territory.
She's just always plumbing new depths.
All right, round 3.
Okay. Starting with exhibit number 5, Nikki. And exhibit number 5, Cherry says, and you got to wonder who is paying for their blue check marks since they are fake. Manufactured accounts with few followers, anonymous, and yet have a blue check. Is it Putin? Elon? Because someone is paying for this fraud. It's all an op, a con. They aren't real people or voters.
Wait,
just in case you were wondering whether they weren't real people, they definitely aren't real voters.
Is she talking about Twitter accounts?
Yes.
Just randomly.
Yes.
And you gotta.
All right. Well, here, I mean, I brought so many nukes today. Can I get Exhibit 16? I can go into an Elon genre.
Oh, he's going to bring up something on topic.
Yeah. Exhibit 16. So Joe Walsh, who is famously an Elon reply guy, he tries replying to Elon whenever he can, tweets out, quote, retweeting, "Actually, my friend, the people will decide who the next president is, and we must all respect the decision, but we all know who the traitor is. The traitor is the guy who's out there right now telling his supporters once again not to respect the election result. He thinks he's replying to Elon Musk.
Oh, no.
It's Elon Musk's satire.
Abuse
no.
of
The
the
guy's
internet.
name
it's an
is
abuse.
Elon Musk, parentheses, satire.
Oh, that's one of the best abuses.
What a boomer.
Oh, my God, that's a bad one.
What a boomer.
Hold on. What's the actual, like...
The actual name of the guy who he's replying to is Elon Musk Potux. And his username says in parentheses, satire, in bold font. Satire.
So for those of you who are listening only audience, in the name Elon Musk, it actually says satire with
Yeah.
parentheses, and he's responded
He's like, oh, this is Elon Musk.
genuinely.
Well, sometimes when you're in the posting game, it's about, quantity, not quality.
Yeah.
So he's out there, he's like firing them out.
So whatever comes across the radar. And like if he sees a Musk
Yeah.
picture,
Yeah.
he's coming back at
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Yeah. And it was verbose. Like I bet he edited that.
He was like,
a
I'm
couple times.
having a heart-to-heart with Elon right here.
Yeah, here we go. Me and Elon. We're just like rolling it out. Can I get one more look at your exhibit, please, Mr. Ashbrook?
Nick, we've got exhibit number 5.
I've
Who's
got
paying for the checks? Is it Putin? Is it Elon? Because somebody's paying for this fraud. It's an op. It's a con. They aren't real people or voters.
I like these both because they're both such boomer takes.
They're such boomer takes, and it is so unbelievable that it's even in the realm of like the idea that you don't know that you just pay for a subscription now, that you have to be like,
Yeah.
Or you put in a credit card.
But it's
But it's
the sort of thing.
like it's the fucking Ruskies.
It's the sort of thing somebody posts when they're getting ratioed on Twitter. They're like, all of these replies are bots. This is Putin's bot army. That's what I love about her take there.
it's very, very good. But I will say
because
on this
what-
program, I'm just going to render a decision here, folks. On this program, there have been not many, if any, that I can recall, full-throated responses to a satire account. Like I have seen like boomerish replies to yourself. I've seen replies.
RTs and quote tweets of yourself.
And not understanding where the thread is and like, all of that. I've not seen like a full-throated, genuine.
Yeah.
And that is a genuine. That's not like he's also satire. That's a genuine response. And for that reason, Joe Walsh wins.
Well,
Called it.
Well reasoned.
Called it.
I can't argue with that.
Great
I
judge.
mean, I
Great
really can't
decision,
argue with
and I
that.
did a great job, and I won it.
I can't believe that is remarkable.
Yeah, it was a hell of a find. I'm really proud of the work I did.
I love it. All right, Smug. So we're going to get into your thing here, which is Panera Bread is exempt from California's $20 minimum wage law after owner donated to Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, so among the list of horrible economic decisions that California Democrats make, Gavin Newsom is like, well, we had the fight for 15, and that caused essentially robots to be the only employees at McDonald's. Caused everyone to have to work as cashiers and baggers whenever they go to a store and self-checkout. Let's go, forget 5 for 15, let's go to 20. But let's exempt places that sell bread like Panera, who's donated to me, which is
I find this amazing.
incredible.
I find this amazing because just the mere the rationale behind it has to be amazing. I would have loved to have seen the straight-faced emissary going from the governor's office down to the state legislature and be like, well, listen, fellas, we're totally on board with the $20 deal. Bread,
Yeah.
like we're dealing with like Great Depression times, or it's like Oliver Twist that we're talking about. Bread, bread has to be exempt because, as we all know, it's the single most healthy thing you can put in your body.
Well,
these days.
it's just so weird that this became the threshold question of the debate.
Bread.
You know? Like,
bread.
it's very interesting.
And Chipotle is like, tortillas count? No.
No.
No, not tortillas.
It's Panera bread.
Also super racist, by the way.
I mean, the blatant nature of how he's just like, well, this guy donated to me. He's a billionaire. He gives me money. The rest of you companies can get wrecked. Like, I know this is going to ruin things for you, and I'm totally cool with it because this is a very poor decision for the economy. But you didn't give me money.
Red Steez had a pretty funny tweet. Did you guys see this?
Oh, yeah.
About the Dems canceling all the gas stoves, except they carved out their favorite chefs.
Yeah, they did. It's true.
Their favorite chefs are allowed to use the gas
you're
stoves,
kidding me.
but nobody else is allowed to do it.
So
like French laundry is wide open.
Jose Andres gets to use
I don't know.
gas?
I don't know if it was him specifically, but whoever the Dems like, that's their favorite chef. They can use the gas stoves. But regular people who are like, yeah, I'd like to come home and cook a dinner. They're like, fuck you.
Nope.
Amazing.
They hate people.
Here's my favorite little attaché to this New York Post article about all of this is early on Wednesday, Panera, this is this week. Panera Bread agreed to pay a $2 million to settle a class action lawsuit that accused the chain of misleading customers about free and menu prices over delivery orders, which, by the way, includes bread.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, what a terrible mess. Unbelievable. All right, so I think we should get to this kid left in tears thing, because this thing just blows my mind. Wolf did just exemplary work in rooting this one out, and I saw it when he sent it around first thing this morning, and I couldn't catch my breath. I was laughing so hard. So it turns out, and this is according to The Independent in the UK, kids left in tears after seeing a freakish Wonka experience. Can we put up? Actually, hold the graphics for a minute.
Yeah. We gotta build this up.
Yeah.
Before people see.
Yeah. Described as a quote full Wonka experience.
Yeah.
Unquote. Tearful kids received only 2 jelly babies. Quote, gummy bears. And a quarter can of Bar's lemonade. Children burst into tears.
Great Depression shit. This happen.
Angry parents rounded on the ringleader of a Willy Wonka experience, which turned out to be a sparse Glasgow warehouse decorated with a rainbow and a bouncy castle. Furious parents shelled out 35 euros for the world pure imagination promising delectable chocolate fountain and a whimsical Oompa Loompas who are in reality actors struggling to recite scripts hastily handed to them the night before the opening. The actors complained on social media that they were given one night to learn the script before it was torn up, and they were told to improvise around the items that were there.
And the items that weren't even there.
Can we? I know you guys have your favorite images from this.
Yes.
But I have a question. Can we put up graphic number 9? Graphic number 9, Nikki. What is this?
Okay.
This has nothing to do with. This is not Wonka Scrumdiddlyumptious. This isn't Grandpa Joe. This is like.
I think that's like the Grim Reaper.
No, this looks like something out of Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah. So for
my God.
our audio only listeners, this was supposed to be a celebration of chocolate here at the chocolate factory of Willy Wonka. And what you're looking at on our screen, if you're a YouTube subscriber, appears to be some kind of a. How would you describe what this person is?
I think Duncan's on something. It looks like an Eyes Wide Shut dude holding up a mirror. Like,
Yeah,
this has
yeah.
nothing to do
with the mirror?
But
this is
also-
just trying to like be. This isn't Wonka. This is like Epstein's Island.
But it's like it almost the guy looks like Kiss with a hockey mask.
Yeah.
It's a horror thing.
Right,
Like
in
you
like
saw
a,
this
in
in
like
Halloween.
a hood and a
cloak.
robe.
A cloak.
Yeah. So he's got a mirror, and he's just clearly standing just in some warehouse. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing going on, but he's part of the attraction. And so that's nothing to do with Willy Wonka. You can understand. Parents would say, like, what does this have to do with Willy Wonka? Maybe that doesn't relevant. What else do you got?
Can we see graphic 8? To me, this is amazing.
This is my Me too. This is also my favorite.
Essentially, you're just seeing like a warehouse with like a picture of like a candy house that got printed and like taped to the wall.
So wait, hold on. What you're looking at for our audio-only listeners is a temporary wall that's been erected in the middle of a vast warehouse, of which about a third of it is covered in the middle with just a picture of a like a poster,
Like
Yeah.
a village.
it's a poster of a
village.
candy village.
Yeah.
And but here my favorite part is the rope line.
Yeah.
Just in case a line should form.
There's
It's like, okay, only one child at a time can walk up and look at the printed photo.
Don't get too close.
You won't. You gotta go on YouTube and check this out. You will not believe what you're looking at. It is literally just a small poster on a temporary wall with a rope line thing in front of it, and they're like, "Welcome to the Magic Kingdom."
As a parent of young kids, like you get roped into things like this
There
where
are things that are less than perfect.
where you pay money more than you probably should to take your kids to some thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a tour, and like the kids they enjoy it, but you notice you're like,
You're
all
like,
right,
well, this kinda
this
sucks.
is kind of bullshit. I'm not getting my money's worth, but. In the balance, it's like, okay, well, we had a good time here for an hour and a half or whatever, and you're like, that was a good Saturday. I have never paid money for anything this depressing and sad. There's one more graphic I
there's
have
two
to show.
more. There's two more.
We got to show 10. Can we show 10?
10 is the coup de grace. This is the lady. This is the lady dropping 2 gummy bears in your kid's hands and a quarter glass of lemonade. There is no question in my mind that this woman is deep into the meth. In fact,
That's a meth lab.
That is a meth lab that we're looking
for
at.
listeners only, she's basically got like a meth lab set up.
She's got a blank stare,
Yeah. She's seen some shit. Thousand yard stare.
a straight face.
What is
Here's
that
your 2
getup?
jelly beans, kid.
Dude,
It's like Bunsen burners. It's what I appreciate about this photo is that there's an acknowledgement in her eyes, her dead eyes, that she knows she's failed.
yes.
She knows she's failed. She knows this was a goof.
She's like, I know what's happening.
I've screwed up.
I know that your kids are being defrauded.
Yeah.
But frankly, mommy needs a fix. So my last one, and this is the one I wanted to highlight, is Graphic 7. Graphic 7. Welcome to the wonderful world of Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
It is a paper mache rainbow that opens up into nothing.
Yeah. Just regular factory floor.
Factory floor in a warehouse going to absolutely nothing. There's a couple of like things on the ground that are of color. Like there's a red thing and a yellow thing.
I would think this kind of looks, for our audio only listeners, this is kind of like an Apple factory in China during Pride Month. All the kids are showing up to assemble iPhones. Like, oh, I guess there's like rainbow today.
There's just
The kids are showing up to assemble iPhones.
Now get to work, goddammit.
Oh, you're a Uyghur? No pay.
Yeah.
the lack of effort is truly astounding. There are windows on every side of this warehouse where all they had to do was like get a partition or some sort of curtain to create a little imagination for the kids, and they didn't even try that hard.
Here's my favorite part. Not a single piece of chocolate in the place.
No.
It's Willy Wonka's chocolate factory sans a piece of chocolate. They couldn't even spring for like a Snickers bar. Like absolutely nothing.
Nope.
No, it's a delectable chocolate fountain or a meth-infested lab in a warehouse with a rainbow and a poster of something that you'll never see.
They have they have certainly found the limits of pure imagination.
Oh, my God. Well, it's been a hell of a week. We do have a couple of 5 stars to read at the end here, and I think we should get on with that. And to do that, we always do with a voice.
Okay, so this first one, it comes from Mitch Daniels, Closet Skeleton.
Is this an Indiana person?
Oh, sounds like
Could
it.
be. Truly a family program. Mitch Daniels, Closet Skeleton, writes, what a name. Fellas, I am a day one listener who has been spreading the word about the program for years.
Nice.
First, it was my parents who now start every phone call with, have you listened to the program? My parents have since recruited several aunts and uncles as loyal minions, including one family member who was not satisfied with the paltry Tuesday, Thursday schedule and recently went back to listen to every episode she has missed since jumping in this past
Oh, that's
Nice.
awesome. I love it. I wish we could do it more.
Kind of
Unfortunately, we also need to feed our families. That's terrific.
I love Indiana.
Dunks or runks?
This one's from Jaded Conservative. Title is Keep It Up, Fellas. I've been listening since day one. Another day one. Wow, that's great. I missed some of the theme music, even if it was too long.
Well, there it is.
We also really need some more Hollywood hen in these crazy times.
We do.
We do. Serious question. Does Smug get a weekly or monthly check from Mar-a-Lago? Everyone else is willing to give serious and sober assessments of the issues of the day. My guy Smug, on the other hand, will use the same 5 talking points about his guy regardless of what crazy stuff he says.
I love the crazy stuff is the thing.
Yeah, that's his thing.
On the other hand, Duncan takes the rocks and arrows for calling balls and strikes. Thank you. I love this person. Did you guys set this up that I got to read this?
Wait a minute.
Who
Did you
allowed
write
this?
this?
Who allowed this?
Did Michael, did you write
Wait,
this?
Jaded Conservative,
No, I didn't write this.
parentheses, Duncan's mom.
Another entry from the Duncan
No,
family.
you have to understand. If you know my mom, she would say it directly, and she'd write her whole name.
She would. She would
This
put her
is
name
true.
on it.
On net, the show remains excellent. It will be slightly more entertaining when the conversation moves to the coming reckoning.
Ooh.
Until then, may brainworms continue to drunk tweet, and may Ashbrook finally solve the continuing animal uprising. Keep up the good work.
Oh, thanks, Jetty Conservative. Very solid. All right, Smug, what do you got from that conservative mom?
So that conservative mom says, love the content, not the language.
Oh,
I
here we
already
go.
agree.
Here
This
we
is
go.
something I bring up. I've been a minion since your first appearance on MK Show. I love the variety of takes that I find here. My favorite was the live watch party of the State of the Union. It was like watching a football game with friends. We're trying to do our part to fight against the animal kingdom. When my husband was sent home during COVID, he purchased a crossbow and began shooting squirrels out of my pantry window.
There you go.
So far, he shot over 50 squirrels. They are doing their
Man,
part.
they are.
A handful of chipmunks, not counting the ones he's trapped, and a groundhog. They're putting up numbers. Also, as someone who lives in Donut County of Indy,
Oh, wow.
the buildings are taller than 2 stories. Maybe an illusion. Maybe
Wow.
illusion. Smug. This podcast is one that I listened to first in my day, but I would recommend to more people if the language was a little cleaner. I'm trying. I am a conservative Christian, and my friend community is very conservative with language. I don't always agree with the fellas, but they do provide insights that are helpful. Keep up the good work. Keep the faith. Hold the line. Own the libs.
Oh,
Oh, I love that.
Outstanding.
Well, we apologize
Man, I love
profusely for the language. Unfortunately, it's not going to change anytime soon.
It'll get better, and I've worked on mine personally.
I don't think you have. I think, if anything, you've remained more offensive.
I made a point, no more GDs. I say gosh darns.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, 100%.
So, but the F-bombs are still
wait, is
I
that
tried
just
to-
a Lent thing?
No, that's just in general.
In general.
In general.
just omnipresent.
Yeah, someone made a good point. You shouldn't take Lord's name in vain. I appreciate that. But
Right.
I need to work on the F-bombs personally.
Yeah.
They're so easy to slip out.
Look, I don't say them lightly.
No, but they're with emphasis.
There's a lot going wrong in our country today.
I hope people understand that, like, I have young kids, and I would prefer to not use them. But living in the world in which we do, with the craziness that we have, sometimes a man must express himself that way. I don't want to.
Well, I think
And
that's
I ask for an apology from God after.
I think that's right, Michael, and I'm sure you'll receive that. But I also think part of the charm of the program is you're getting us exactly how we are and will be in about an hour when we're at happy hour.
Yeah.
Right? And you're going to
Accurate.
get the pure, uncut version of us. We're not going to be tailor-made to try to be commercial about it, and we're certainly not going to give you opinions that we think are, mutually acceptable to everyone. We're just going to give you the straight stuff, and that every once in a while includes an F-bomb, believe it or not. So, but we love the 5 stars. We keep them coming. Those are terrific. Over-indexed on Indiana today.
I just want to say for the record, I had nothing to do with that. I really didn't.
We're indexed on Indiana. All that being said, thank you to everyone for listening. This show is truly a joy to do, and it is growing every day, which is amazing to us more than anything. And I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode, gentlemen. Again, thank you so much to the minions who listen. Subscribe on YouTube because it's more fun in video. So, until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.